Now, everybody's going to be talking about what Jim Harbaugh means to the Chargers and how quick he can get it going out there in LA. And we're going to break that down too. But I want to take a second to focus on Michigan and what happens now. Because half the fan base, I'm sure, just like every other fan base out there, is panicking. The other half is just thankful for the memories and looking forward to Coach Moore most likely getting his opportunity. That seems like the guy that's going to replace him. And he should. And to be honest, Sharon Moore is really Jim Harbaugh's Kirby Smart. But one of the most beautiful and ironic things about Jim Harbaugh being suspended for Burgergate and the Connor Stallion situation is that Sharon Moore has the best on-the-job training you could possibly have. It wasn't like he just went out there and was the interim head coach against Western Kentucky or Southern Illinois. We saw him have to do it in big games. We saw him have to do it against Iowa. We saw him have to do it against Ohio State. So he's ready to go. But the overarching and most important thing that Sharon Moore can bring to Michigan, and the most important word in the ever-changing landscape of college football, we see with the rules, with NIL, with the transfer portal, with conference realignment, is continuity. You're already losing a big part of your team, older guys that have stayed around in the core to finally move on and go to the NFL, Blake Corum, J.J. McCarthy, the offensive line, we can go down the list. But those young guys returning aren't going to have to accept a new type of culture being brought in. Just because the head chef leaves doesn't mean the main recipe is forgotten. It also helps protect you somewhat in the transfer portal. It's the best insurance there is to be able to keep the quality players and not have to re-recruit your own roster. That's not saying some guys won't leave Michigan, but I don't think we're going to see this crazy exodus like we've seen at other places. And when you're Michigan, and that 30-day transfer portal window opens when your head coach leaves, and you're basically the only show in the transfer portal in town, that, in my opinion, is the biggest saving grace that Sharon Moore brings, outside of just being a damn good football coach. David Cohn, former Michigan quarterback. I'm sure he's very opinionated about this. My brother, former Western State, Colorado wide receiver, Blaine Crane. David, you heard the news, your reaction. I know, again, it's a thanks for the memories thing. It obviously hurts a little bit. But having Coach Moore, a guy who understands it, who's been in it, not like he's been at Michigan and left and came back, but he was brought up in the waters, per se, of Jim Harbaugh and the culture that Michigan has established right now.
Yeah, and I always love hearing your thoughts, too, just from an outsider's perspective, how you think the program should go. We're going to win or we're going to die trying. That's what Jim Harbaugh said 3 years ago. And what a run it's been since then. I'm going to distill all of my thoughts into three different categories here. First of all, what an incredible opportunity to coach the Los Angeles Chargers. How often does an NFL job come open with such an elite roster and so much structure? I mean, you got a quarterback, a left tackle, an edge rusher, and a top 5 pick. And Jim Harbaugh, above all things else, is a quarterback developer, from Andrew Luck to Alex Smith, Colin Kaepernick, J.J. McCarthy. Now you're going to go work with Justin Herbert, who's under contract. And Jim Harbaugh is going to re-enter the NFL with the highest win percentage of any active coach at .695, based off what he did with the San Francisco 49ers. Higher than Matt LaFleur, higher than Bill Belichick, higher than Andy Reid. The AFC West is going to be the most fun division in football next year to watch, with Jim Harbaugh and Andy Reid. And now you got Sean Payton, Antonio Pierce, all those guys. I think he immediately makes them a Super Bowl contender. On to the second point. I agree with you. Name Sharon Moore the head coach today. I wouldn't even conduct an outside search. Now, for Michigan fans listening, understand this. Yes, you want to go hire the best guy possible. And is Sharon Moore the most experienced coach that you could bring in? No, but you're not going to go get another Jim Harbaugh. And this guy is 6-0 with a win over the Buckeyes already. He's already walked across the field, shaking hands with Ryan Day after beating him. Now, what's more important? To keep a couple players from not transferring the next 30 days, or setting the program up for years to come? Obviously, it's the latter. But I think Sharon Moore is the type of guy who can do that. Not only do you keep the cohesion together that you're talking about, Jake, in a time where college football is changing in seismic shifts, basically, when we talk about tripling the playoff and new teams coming into the conference, but you'll also keep the infrastructure from the greatest 3-year run you've had, 40-3 over the past 3 seasons. If it doesn't work out with him, you evaluate that like you do with every coach, and you move on. But I would name Sharon Moore the head coach. And then the third thing, and lastly, and most importantly, just directly to Coach Harbaugh, thank you. not only for everything you've done for Michigan and winning a national championship, but for college football. I mean, think about what this guy's done. He returned to the place where he played quarterback for Bo Schembechler. He returned to his alma mater, and he gave it everything he had, and he won for them. He won conference titles. He had a perfect season, the greatest season in the history of Michigan football. I understand the guy was polarizing. Some people don't like he's pro-life. They don't like he's pro-player compensation. They don't like that he is a disruptor and a maverick and does things his own way. But when I look at the way this guy takes care of his players, graduates them at a higher rate than anyone in the country, the way he interacts with his coaches, his parents, his family, I see a man of integrity, a guy I'd like to play for, a guy I'd like to coach for, a guy I'd like to hire if I was the boss. That's a guy I see. We've talked ad nauseum how the NCAA, to me, is a broken system, and college football needs to make a lot of changes moving forward, or else it's going to continue to be broken. I don't know how someone can look at Jim Harbaugh and then look at the NCAA and some of the powers that be around the landscape of college athletics and think that Jim Harbaugh is the bad guy. I've said that. You guys know where I stand on that. But I will say to Michigan fans here in the coming days and in the coming weeks, don't blame the NCAA or the university or Ward Manuel for Jim Harbaugh returning to the NFL.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, the guy wants to win a Super Bowl ring. He's made that clear with his interest in the NFL the past couple of seasons. And winning a Super Bowl ring is one thing Michigan can't fault him for, and it's one thing Michigan can't give him.
Yeah, and Blaine, I want to get to you in 1 second and the Booster Club. But David, I want to ask you this, and something I was thinking about yesterday when the news was announced. With all the stuff that has gone on with the NCAA, I think there's two ways to look at it. Do you feel that it's more likely now that sanctions will come to Michigan because Sharon Moore is the head coach? Because if you think about it on one side of the coin, well, Jim Harbaugh's gone now. So kind of the poster child, even though it was Connor Stallions was involved and this, that, and the other, the poster child of the polarization from an NCAA standpoint is now gone to the NFL. I don't know if that takes the pressure off of Michigan a little bit, because we've seen, when coaches part ways, sometimes that penalty is a little bit less. Or do they sit here and say, all right, well, now we got a new head coach. We obviously know that Tony Petitti, the Big Ten commissioner, is going to basically fall on our side, whichever side we fall on, talking about the NCAA. Basically, does it make it easier or harder now for the NCAA if they were going to put sanctions on Michigan for what took place in the past, which I don't think they should? Well, what do you think?
If there are staff members at the University of Michigan who saw a rule and broke it intentionally to gain a competitive advantage, then to me it shouldn't matter whether the head coach is there or not. Like, there should be some sort of punishment that comes with that. I'll say that regardless of what program it is. The problem I have is the selective enforcement when it comes to the NCAA. I don't know what the rules are. I don't know who broke what. They're leaking stuff to ESPN before they even tell the university about it, and then won't allow the university or the head coach to even respond publicly. It's all nonsense to me. And then Tony, Charlie Baker. No, Charlie Baker. I'm sorry. The head of the NCAA comes out after the national championship and says Michigan's national championship was legit, and us calling them out in the middle of the season and them winning down the stretch without Connor Stallions or with Jim Harbaugh's punishment proves how legit their championship is. Okay, well then wrap up the investigations. That's the part that
the minute you say the national championship's legit, I'd stop listening to you.
Yeah.
Like the minute you say Michigan's national championship's legit, okay, so if it's legit, then you're saying we're basically in the clear.
And I hate that we're even talking about it. And it reminds me a lot of Pete Carroll at Southern California. Like, I didn't see, I saw ESPN yesterday and some of the hosts over there, like Peter Burns and a lot of people on Twitter, basically saying that Jim Harbaugh is taking the easy way out, taking the coward's way out, the weak way out, leaving a sinking ship. First of all, the ship was sinking before he got there. They're the best team in college football right now. They just won the championship a matter of days ago. So don't talk to me about a sinking ship. But in terms of taking the weak way out, I mean, this guy's going to go face Patrick Mahomes twice a year in the NFL and the AFC West.
The NFL.
And everybody, if Lincoln Riley did this, right, or if Kirby Smart did this, maybe you could sell me on that point. We're talking about a guy who's had prior success in the NFL. He coached in a Super Bowl before a national championship. And I think of Pete Carroll the same way at USC. I think the timing was unfortunate, but Pete Carroll had already been in the NFL. He wanted to return to the NFL, had this awesome stint with the Trojans at USC. I'll remember those USC teams fondly. I don't think about them as being cheaters or paying Reggie Bush. Like, he was the Heisman Trophy winner. They won a national championship, and I think that's how Michigan's going to be remembered as well.
Yeah, and Blaine, to kind of shift gears to the Chargers a little bit, one of the most interesting quotes I saw from Jim Harbaugh was talking about how the Chargers, who are known for not spending money,
Yeah.
right, are going to go all in, basically, build the infrastructure. We'll see the numbers on the contract. Really give Harbaugh a chance to go win. But to David's point, if you're the Chargers looking at it from the best head coach out there that's available for you to get, what other guy are you going to find? It's almost like Sharon Moore. What other guy are you going to find that already has unbelievable on-the-job experience in the NFL, went back to college, had success, obviously, joined Pete Carroll and Jimmy Johnson, if he wins a Super Bowl, to win a championship in college in the NFL, and Barry Switzer. But Blaine, if you're the Chargers, this is a home run. If you're Justin Herbert, and don't forget, Jim Harbaugh played for the Chargers.
Yeah, that's right.
For 2 years. So if you're Justin Herbert, if you're Austin Eckler, if you're anybody aligned, and we're going to talk to Sean Merriman about this here in the next couple days, but you have got to be aligned with this hire. You've got to be excited. You go from Brandon Staley to Jim Harbaugh. I mean, that's gonna make the cake smell a little bit better coming out of the oven.
I mean, and you got to think a lot of NFL teams have been trying to get this guy for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
Whether that's the Denver Broncos, whether that's the Chicago Bears. This is a home run hire if you're the Chargers. Because look, you could say anything you want about Jim Harbaugh, but the guy's a damn winner. He wins where he goes and coaches football. And right now, there's a stigma in that Chargers locker room that it's going to fall apart sooner or later. All right, and to bring a guy like Jim Harbaugh in to Band-Aid everything up with the structure that you need, and Justin Herbert, and you're looking at, I believe, a top 10 pick too. If you're the Chargers, a lot of people are thinking Brock Bowers, which will be a problem, right? Because you know why? Because Keenan Allen's not getting any younger. You have Palmer, you have Mike Williams, got that kid from TCU.
They got like 3 kids.
Who didn't have a great year, but you have the weapons at receiver, Austin Eckler coming in. Hell, Jared Everett's still a great piece. But at the end of the day, at the Chargers, you have to win, and you have to win with defense. That's Bosa. That's your safety. That's your good corner. So right now, if there's anybody you can go get, I couldn't find a better option to go hire if you're the Chargers than Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, he's going to face his brother John in the regular season at SoFi Stadium.
Win Thanksgiving.
I mean, look, and
win Thanksgiving, baby.
We're not even done with this season, but when you talk about Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow's going to get healthy. You know, those are just AFC quarterbacks. Tua Tagovailoa, what the Dolphins are doing. You know, do you think that the Chargers are a legitimate Super Bowl contender right now when Jim Harbaugh steps into the front office?
I mean, when you look at their roster and the guys they have in important positions, I think they are.
I do.
You know, they're obviously not the favorite, and playing in that division's like getting jumped by a group of ninjas right when you walk in the dojo. But again, when you put the experience of the head coach you have now is not going to be overwhelmed. You take the momentum that they're going to have in the offseason going forward, putting the money for infrastructure, doing all the things you have to do to take that next step, and you already have the personnel, plus you're adding a top 10 pick. I mean, at the end of the day, it's setting up for the Chargers to actually turn this negative bubble that Blaine was talking about, where you're just waiting on how to lose, to flipping the script totally and having a lot of positive momentum with a guy you know knows how to win in Jim Harbaugh. I do think it turns him into a legitimate Super Bowl.
I think the first thing you have to look at when it comes to can a team be a Super Bowl contender is obviously the first position is quarterback.
Yeah.
Right? And what you have with Justin Herbert is a chance to win a Super Bowl. I think Justin Herbert's that good. I think he just needs to be reined in a little bit and pointed in the right direction. And I feel like the Chargers are a type of team, if they get hot and win a playoff game, they could roll, right? They really could. I mean, Derwin James is a top 5 safety in the league. You're going to have to draft a lot of defense. Look, to get you to the championship, to win the Super Bowl, defense will get you there, but your quarterback will take you home. And I think the Chargers have that.
You talk about getting reined in. Who better to do that than Jim Harbaugh? We just talked about him being
guy who played the position
developer, right?
At that place, even though it was in San Diego.
Alex Smith was seen largely as a bust in San Francisco before he got there. And then he takes that team to 3 straight NFC championships and to a Super Bowl.
He made Colin Kaepernick.
He drafted him and developed him and got the most out of him.
What's up, YouTube? Hey, do me a favor if you haven't already. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn that notification bell on, and like the videos. Really helps out. We appreciate it.